And the past few weeks, we've been doing videos about some of my favorite foods that I like to keep around the house. So we talked about high protein snacks. Then we talked a little bit about fats last week. And then this week, I thought, continue with that theme. We'll talk a little bit about carbohydrates. This one's kind of short and sweet. I don't have a humongous list of carbohydrates that I like to choose from. I like a couple of them. They're my favorites, and I stick to them. But I just wanted to share with you what I use as a source of carbohydrates. Now, they fall into different categories of foods, and you might be able to wander and make a lot of different choices within those categories, depending on your preference and what you like. But yeah, the list of carbohydrates sources is short because when I talk about carbohydrates, I'm talking about whole food carbohydrate sources. I'm not talking about processed foods that contain carbohydrates like cookies or donuts or stuff like that. Not to say I never eat them, but those aren't where I get my carbohydrates on a daily basis. Where do I get my carbohydrates on a daily basis? Well, I usually start my day and have a little bit of lunch. Fruit. Here I have some bananas. The dreaded banana is probably like the most feared carbohydrate in the world. I went a long time without eating bananas, and I'm very disappointed in myself for doing that, but we all live and learn. Bananas are not the devil. I have been consuming bananas every single day, almost a banana a day for several years at this point, and I'm still completely metabolically healthy and do not have diabetes. But I do love fruit as a source of carbohydrates. I have a banana every morning. I generally have some strawberries and blueberries around lunchtime as well. Berries are on my list of carbohydrates for fruits. Obviously, bananas, apples. Summertime, really like watermelon, grapes occasionally. Let's see what other kind of fruit. I like all kinds of fruit, but bananas, strawberries, blueberries, those are the staples for me on what I consume. In the fall time, when there's apples abundant here in New England, definitely indulge in some apples. I love to have apples on my salad. That's great. Apples with pork, also a good idea. But I try to keep the fruit that I consume in their whole food form. I don't try to pulverize them or fruit juices or anything like that. I generally eat them in a whole food form. So I'll just have some banana, I'll have some grapes, I'll have some strawberries, blueberries, whatever. I don't put them in a smoothie or a shake or anything like that. I usually just eat them in their whole food form. And that's important for any carbohydrate we talk about, because if we're talking about, if you do happen to have concerns about the effect on your blood sugar with carbohydrates, the whole food form is always going to be the best. It's going to be the slowest digesting. It's going to give you a lower blood sugar response typically. Whereas if you process them, liquidize them, if you take an apple and you turn it into applesauce, it's going to be quicker digesting. It's going to hit your bloodstream a little bit faster than if you just ate the apple in its whole food form. And if you took that apple and you ate apple juice, that's going to be even worse than applesauce. There's levels to processing, and that will determine how it impacts your blood sugar. Not saying that you should ever have applesauce or you should never put fruit in a smoothie or anything like that. Just word of caution if that's something you're concerned with. I just typically eat them in a whole food form, even though I have no blood sugar concerns, honestly. But yeah, so fruit is probably my number one choice. Second choice, sweet potatoes. I love sweet potatoes. I eat every day, typically at dinner. I love them. Baked is typically how I have them. I will have them occasionally. We have a nice air fryer, so I can make some sweet potato French fries, or just not even French fry form, just dice them up and throw them in the air fryer. They're amazing. I love them. But all potatoes are fair game, honestly. If you're not a sweet potato fan, regular white potato, perfectly okay. Fingerling potatoes. Any kind of potato is really good as long as you don't process them, right? Just like with fruit, the more you process them, the easier they're going to be to overconsume, right? If I take this sweet potato, bake it, and eat it without anything on it, it's very different than I slice it up, fry it, and make potato chips out of it. But first of all, you could probably eat this one potato and be satisfied. You could eat a whole bag of potato chips, which contains multiple potatoes in it, without blinking an eye and not be satisfied about it at all. So potatoes, just like a fruit, can be processed and made easier to consume. But like I said, I 85% of the time consume my potatoes baked. I just bake them on the weekends, really easy, throw a bunch in the oven, bake them. They stay really good for the week. really easy to meal prep. You take out however much you need with the potato, plop it on your plate, a little salt. I do like a little bit of maple syrup on time on top of my sweet potato, but not a ton. Maybe like a teaspoon, if that, and a little of salt and a little bit of cinnamon, and that's how I eat it pretty much every day. And so potatoes are the second source of carbohydrates that I consume. The other one is going to be here. I don't have it because I meal prepped it already. It's butternut squash. I like all kinds of squashes. It doesn't have to be butternut squash. Acorn squash and butternut squash are typically my favorites. I have some spaghetti squash actually in the fridge as well, but any other squashes are really good. They're actually not the most carbohydrate dense vegetables, honestly. Less than a potato, less than most fruits, less than a banana for sure, but maybe more than strawberry or blueberry. But I like them. They do add, they're definitely a source of carbohydrates. You have to eat a lot of it to get a lot of carbohydrates, so it can be filling. They're slow digesting. Again, I don't do anything special with them. Actually, for butternut squash, I dice it up like that, and then I will boil it until soft, and then throw that in the fridge. And yeah, just take some out when I want it and eat it. And again, I put a little maple syrup and a little cinnamon on it, kind of like how I prepare my sweet potato. I actually like to mix my sweet potato and butter squash together. I'll take a little bit of both, mash them up together, and just eat it like that. That's what I like to do. Acorn squash, I'll just roast in the oven until it's soft, peel it, and then again put it in the fridge for the week. So again, these are the great thing about carbohydrates is they're really easy to meal prep and they're really easy to take out and reheat. So you get a lot for the effort, which is really good. And yeah, just similar to the other carbohydrates, the more you process an acorn squash, the tastier you try to make it, the more effect it can have on your blood sugar, the easier it can be to overeat. So again, try it whenever we're talking about carbohydrates. Your goal is, most of the time is to make it as minimally processed as possible. So just boiling the butternut squash is a lot different than covering it in oil and air frying it and making lovely little crunchy butternut squash bits out of it, or making it into a soup, right? Butternut squash soup is very popular. You boil it, you mash it, you add a bunch of heavy cream and flavoring and stuff to it, and you make a soup out of it. That's going to be a lot different calorically and from a blood sugar response to the butternut squash than if you just boil and eat butternut squash. My last carbohydrate that I consume on the regular is white rice. This happens to be organic sushi rice. I like the stickiness of the sushi rice. That's why I get it. White rice, I like white rice. It's just because it's just easily digestible. It's fast-acting carbohydrate. So when I really want to load up on the carbs, I'll go to white rice. White rice is great because it's a little great bang for your buck in terms of volume. But you got to eat a lot of bananas. You got to eat a lot of potatoes. You got to eat a lot of squash to really get a substantial amount of carbohydrates. If you're really trying to get north of 200 grams of carbohydrates a day, I'm not saying everyone is, but sometimes I need to get there, and so it can be tough with vegetables and fruit. White rice does a trick. It goes a long way. Again, very easy to meal prep. Actually, the way I prep my white rice is I put it in an Instant Pot. There's a rice function on there. Put it in the Instant Pot. It takes about half an hour in the Instant Pot. Take it out, put it in a bowl, put it in the fridge. It stores really well. I eat it occasionally. Kids eat it with their Mexican, when we have tacos and stuff like that. So white rice is the other one. If you want to have brown rice, if you want to have jasmine rice, if you want to have some other type of rice, go for it. There's nothing particularly special about white rice besides it just has the outside of the rice grain removed, and that's just a little bit easier on the digestive system. Yes, you take away some of the fiber, but honestly, you're not getting that much fiber from white rice anyways. You'll get far more fiber from berries or apple or your vegetables or potatoes or squash and stuff like that. I wouldn't really worry about too much if you're just consuming white rice over brown rice or something like that. Actually, there is one other source of carbohydrates that I left out. I forgot to grab it. Is I do consume gluten-free oatmeal as well. That's the other source, probably the most processed/controversial one out there, but I do consume it. Again, it's just hard to get a lot of carbohydrates from vegetables and fruit, and so you get full easily. And so I find really white rice and oatmeal are kind of like just they're not enjoyment things for me. They're just tools to get in fuel for performance and exercise. So you got to use what you need. And so I use that, and those are the ones that work best for me. So I just do regular gluten-free oatmeal, nothing particularly fancy about it. Nature's Path, I think, is the one I use, but I've tried a whole bunch of them, but I like the Nature's Path one. Again, also stores are, you can make it in the weekend, put it in a container, take out what you need during the week, reheat it. That's the great part about carbohydrates, honestly. It's just they're really easy meal prep. You make a batch of it and you can just take out what you need over the week. Those are my top sources of carbohydrates. Interested to hear what carbohydrates you guys like to eat. How much do you eat? What are your favorite sources? Do you disagree with mine? I'm always looking for recommendations too. So if you have some suggestions, please send them my way. I'll leave your comments in the below the video, or if you want to email me or send me a direct message, that's always welcome as well. It doesn't have to be public comments, so feel free to email me, direct message me. As always, I encourage you to subscribe to my newsletter to get all the content that I put out, including these videos, but all the other stuff that I put out on a weekly basis. So you're not stalking me on social media. So you can go to my website at rjbhealth.coach, click on the newsletter link at the top of the page, and enter your email address to do that. And I don't, as I've mentioned in the past, recently I don't have any open spots for one-on-one coaching, but if you are interested in the future spots when they become available, please go to my website, rjbhealth.coach, click on the schedule discovery call button, fill out the form, and we can have a quick chat, at least about what you're interested in, and get you on the wait list. So when I do have spots open up, that you'll be right there and ready to go. But yeah, if that's something you're interested in, please reach out and connect with me on that. Other than that, I hope everyone has a great weekend. I'm going ice fishing with a bunch of friends this weekend. It's the annual New Hampshire Ice Fishing Derby here in New Hampshire. So I'm going to have a bunch of great social connection, time outside, nature, and hopefully catching a lot of fish. But that might be questionable. We'll see.